In the 30 some odd years I've been studying facial expression, there are certain kind of things that come out that really knock me out. And one of the things that knocks me out is the power of FACS Action Unit 6. It seems that this action seems to mark states where there's intense feeling. Let me break this down. Now, FACS Action Unit 6 reflects contraction of the outer rings of orbicularis oculi. Orbicularis oculi is a set of concentric rings of fibers that encircle the eye. When the outer rings contract, especially out here, bringing the eyebrow down, lifting the upper cheek, compressing the eyelid, and famously creating crow's feet, we get Action Unit 6, as I'm demonstrating there. When the inner rings of orbicularis oculi contract, so the rings of fibers right in the eyelids themselves, we get AU7, which tightens the eyelids, narrowing the eyelids. So those are two forms of what we might call eye constriction. There's a number of studies that indicate that eye constriction, especially AU6, tends to add punch to certain emotion displays. Let's take two emotions in which we have evidence of this: happiness and sadness. Now, many of you are probably familiar with the research on enjoyment smiles. The smiles of truly felt enjoyment tend to involve not only FACS AU12, or reflecting the contraction of zygomaticus major, creating the smile shape, but also contraction of the muscles around the eyes in AU6. So smiles of true enjoyment have AU6, and smiles without AU6 can occur for a variety of reasons. Some of them positive states, some of them to be polite, etc. I'm not going to break that down right now. So where does that evidence come from? There's research that Ekman, Davidson, and Friesen did in 1990, in which they studied people in a couple different positive emotional contexts in the laboratory, and they found that when people did the smiles with AU6, they were more likely to report feeling happy, feeling amused, than when they had smiles without AU6. And also, the smiles with AU6 correlated with brain activity that has been shown to be a marker of felt positive emotion. So that's one line of evidence on 6 being kind of, I don't know, a sign of at least the real feeling of happiness. But here's another line of evidence on that emotional state, and that is the research on a really rich real-life emotional context, baby-mother interaction. I'm referring here now to the research of Daniel Messinger and his colleagues at the University of Miami, where they've done some incredible studies on people, on mothers and babies interacting, looking at physiology, looking at facial behavior. And when they have observers rate the videos of the baby's faces when they are in a happy interaction with the mom, the smiles where the baby show AU6 and a hint of 7, so it's generally eye constriction they're looking at. The smiles when there's eye constriction are consistently rated as more intense by observers than smiles without eye constriction. And they also tend to mark situations in which there's an affective synchrony between the mother and the baby, more than smiles without the eye constriction. What's interesting is they also have data on the baby's cry face when they're crying or in distress, which might be called an expression of sadness or being upset. It's harder to pinpoint in research on babies, but clearly a negative emotional state of distress. That in the displays that have AU6 and 7 eye constriction tend to be rated, not tend to, or significantly more likely to be rated as more intense than the cry faces without eye constriction. Again, most of this is being carried by AU6. So there's something about 6 that adds that extra punch. So that's some data on it, but let's look at, tell me what you think. I'm going to show you some pictures. Here you can see a happiness display. This woman is showing the classic signal of happiness. And on the left panel, you see her smiling without any eye constriction. And on the right panel, you see her smiling with a lot of AU6 and a little AU7. Which one of these looks more happy to you? Now let's take sadness. These are some pictures of me, yours truly, showing a sad display. Classic sad expression. On the left, I don't have any eye constriction. And on the right, you see me doing FACS AU6, a lot of AU6 with a little 7. Which one looks more sad to you? So there's something about extra feeling, an extra little bit of punch that 6 adds to emotion displays. I find this fascinating. A metaphor that's been used to refer to this effect is to call AU6 facial MSG. And you may know that MSG is the acronym for the chemical monosodium glutamate that's added to foods to enhance the flavor. So we can look at AU6 as a form of facial MSG. I want to add one more piece of evidence to this argument that 6 reflects feelingness, the oomph of feeling. And that comes from not emotion research, but research on pain and another feeling state, orgasm. Both of these faces, the universal pain display, of which there are several forms, many of them are marked by constriction of the eye, and often not just 6, but the tensing of the lids in AU7 as well. And that's also a component of the expression that's shown in orgasm. There's some research on when people are orgasming, there's a lot of eye constriction there as well. So there's something about AU6 or eye constriction more generally that adds punch to emotion displays.